Alright, so we're going to read more of the Odyssey. If you haven't seen part 1 of this, you should go and watch that live stream before watching this one. I read the first 3 books, chapters, but they call them books in this. I'm going to start with book 4, and we'll see how far we get tonight. I do have to work in the morning, so I probably won't be reading that long, but we will see. Okay. Here we go. Book 4. Now, when the sun had set, and darkness was over the land, they reached the low-lying city of Sparta, where they drove straight to the abode of Menelaus, and found him in his own house, feasting with as many clansmen in honor of the wedding of his son, and also of his daughter, whom he was marrying to the son of that valiant warrior, Achilles. He had given his consent, and promised her to him while he was still at Troy, and now the gods were bringing the marriage about. So he was sending her with chariots and horses to the city of the Myrmidons, over whom Achilles' son was reigning. For his only son, he had found a bride from Sparta, the daughter of Alector. This son, Megaphenthes, was born to him of a bondwoman. For heaven vouchsafed Helen no more children after she had borne Hermione, who was fair as golden Aphrodite herself. So the neighbors and kinsmen of Menelaus were feasting and making merry in his house. There was a bard also to sing to them and play his lyre, while 2 tumblers went about performing in the midst of them, when the man struck up with his tune. Telemachus and the son of Nestor stayed their horses at the gate, whereon Eteoneus, servant to Menelaus, came out, and as soon as he saw them, ran hurrying back into the house to tell his master. He went close up to him and said, "Menelaus, there are some strangers come here, 2 men, who look like sons of Zeus. What are we to do? Shall we take their horses out, or tell them to find friends elsewhere, as they best can?" Menelaus was very angry, and said, "Eteoneus, son of Boethius, you never used to be a fool, and now you talk like a simpleton. Take their horses out, of course, and show the strangers in that they may have supper. You and I have stayed often enough at other people's houses before we got here, where heaven grant that we may rest in peace henceforward." So Eteoneus bustled back and bade the other servants come with him. They took their sweating steeds from under the yoke, made them fast to the mangers, and gave them a feed of oats and barley mixed. Then they leaned the chariot against the end wall of the courtyard, and led the way into the house. Telemachus and Pisistratus were astonished when they saw it, for its splendor was as that of the sun and moon. Then, when they had admired everything to their heart's content, they went into the bathroom and washed themselves. When the servants had washed them and anointed them with oil, they brought them woolen cloaks and shirts, and the 2 took their seats by the side of Menelaus. A maidservant brought them water in a beautiful golden ewer, and poured it into a silver basin for them to wash their hands, and she drew a clean table beside them. An upper servant brought them bread, and offered them many good things of what there was in the house, while the carver fetched them plates of all manner of meats and set cups of gold by their side. Menelaus then greeted them, saying, "Fall to, and welcome. When you have done supper, I shall ask who you are, for the lineage of such men as you cannot have been lost. You must be descended from a line of scepter-bearing kings, for poor people do not have such sons as you are." On this, he handed them a piece of fat roast loin, which had been set near him as being a prime part, and they laid their hands on the good things that were before them. As soon as they had had enough to eat and drink, Telemachus said to the son of Nestor, with his head so close that no one might hear, Look, Pisistratus, madest from my own heart, see the gleam of bronze and gold, of amber, ivory, and silver. Everything is so splendid that it is like seeing the palace of Olympian Zeus. I am lost in admiration. Menelaus overheard him and said, No one, my sons, can hold his own with Zeus, for his house and everything about him is immortal. But among mortal men, well, there may be another who has as much wealth as I have, or there may not. But at all events, I have traveled much and have undergone much hardship, for it was 8 years before I could get home with my fleet. I went to Cyprus, Phoenicia, and the Egyptians. I went also to the Ethiopians, the Sidonians, and the Arabians, and to Libya, where the lambs have horns as soon as they are born, and the sheep lamb down 3 times a year. Everyone in that country, whether master or man, has plenty of cheese, meat, and good milk, for the ewes yield all the year round. But while I was traveling and getting great riches among these people, my brother was secretly and shockingly murdered through the perfidy of his wicked wife, so that I have no pleasure in being lord of all this wealth. Whoever your parents may be, they must have told you all this, and of my having lost in the ruin of a stately mansion fully and magnificently furnished. Would that I had only 1/3 of what I now have, so that I had stayed at home, and all those were living who perished on the plain of Troy, far from Argos. I often grieve, as I sit here in my house, for one and all of them. At times I cry aloud for sorrow. But presently I leave off again, for crying is cold comfort, and one soon tires of it. Yet, grieve for these as I may, I do so for one man more than for all of them. I cannot even think of him without loathing both food and sleep, so miserable does he make me. For no one of all the Achaeans worked so hard or risked so much as he did. He took nothing by it, and has left a legacy of sorrow to myself, for he has been gone a long time, and we know not whether he is alive or dead. His old father, his long-suffering wife Penelope, and his son Telemachus, whom he left behind him, an infant in arms, are plunged in grief on his account. Thus spoke Menelaus, and the heart of Telemachus yearned as he bethought him of his father. Tears fell from his eyes as he heard him thus mentioned, so that he held his cloak before his face with both hands. When Menelaus saw this, he doubted whether to let him choose his own time for speaking, or to ask him at once and find what it was all about. While he was thus in 2 minds, Helen came down from her high-vaulted and perfumed room, looking as lovely as Artemis herself. Adraste brought her a seat, Alcippe a soft woolen rug, while Philo fetched her the silver work-box which Alcandra, wife of Polybus, had given her. Polybus lived in Egyptian Thebes, which is the richest city in the whole world. He gave Menelaus 2 baths, both of pure silver, 2 tripods, and 10 talents of gold. Besides all this, his wife Helen gave Helen some beautiful presents, to wit, a golden distaff, and a silver work-box that ran on wheels, with a gold band round the top of it. Philo now placed this by her side, full of fine spun yarn, and a distaff charged with violet-colored wool was laid upon the top of it. Then Helen took her seat, put her feet upon the footstool, and began to question her husband. "Do we know, Menelaus," said she, "the names of these strangers who have come to visit us? Shall I guess right or wrong? But I cannot help saying what I think. Never yet have I seen either man or woman so like somebody else. Indeed, when I look at him, I hardly know what to think, as this young man is like Telemachus, whom Odysseus left as a baby behind him, when you Achaeans went to Troy with battle in your hearts, on account of my most shameless self."
"My dear wife," replied Menelaus, "I see the likeness just as you do. His hands and feet are just like Odysseus's. So is his hair, with the shape of his head and the expression of his eyes. Moreover, when I was talking about Odysseus, and saying how much he had suffered on my account, tears fell from his eyes, and he hid his face in his mantle."
Then Pisistratus said, "Menelaus, son of Atreus, you are right in thinking that this young man is Telemachus, but he is very honest, and is ashamed to come here and begin opening up discourse with one whose conversation is so divinely interesting as your own. My father, Nestor, sent me to escort him hither, for he wanted to know whether you could give him any counsel or suggestion. A son has always trouble at home when his father has gone away, leaving him without supporters. And this is how Telemachus is now placed, for his father is absent, and there is no one among his own people to stand by him."
"Bless my heart," replied Menelaus, "then I am receiving a visit from the son of a very dear friend, who suffered much hardship for my sake. I had always hoped to entertain him with most marked distinction when heaven had granted us a safe return from beyond the seas. I should have founded a city for him in Argos, and built him a house. I should have made him leave Ithaca with his goods, his son, and all his people, and should have sacked for them some one of the neighboring cities that are subject to me. We should thus have seen one another continually, and nothing but death could have interrupted so close and happy an intercourse. I suppose, however, that heaven grudged us all such great good fortune, for it has prevented the poor fellow from ever getting home at all."
Thus did he speak, and his words set them all a-weeping. Helen wept, Telemachus wept, and so did Menelaus, nor could Pisistratus keep his eyes from filling, when he remembered his dear brother Antilochus. Nor could Pisistratus keep his eyes from filling, when he remembered his dear brother Antilochus, whom the son of bright dawn had killed. Thereon he said to Menelaus, "Sir, my father Nestor, when we used to talk about you at home, told me you were a man of rare and excellent understanding. If, then, it be possible, do as I would urge you. I am not fond of crying while I am getting my supper. Morning will come in due course, and in the forenoon I care... lost my place. Morning will come in due course, and in the forenoon I care not how much I cry for those that are dead and gone. This is all we can do for the poor things. We can only shave our heads for them, and wring the tears from our cheeks. I had a brother who died at Troy. He was by no means the worst man there. You're sure to have known him. His name was Antilochus. I never set eyes upon him myself, but they say he was singularly fleet of foot, and in fight valiant."
"Your discretion, my friend," answered Menelaus, "is beyond your years. It is plain you take after your father. One can soon see when a man is son to one whom heaven has blessed both as regards wife and offspring. And it has blessed Nestor from first to last all his days, giving him a green old age in his own house, with sons about him, who are both well disposed and valiant. We will put an end, therefore, to all this weeping, and attend to our supper again. Let water be poured over our heads. Telemachus and I can talk with one another fully in the morning."
On this, Asphalion, one of the servants, poured water over their heads, and they laid their hands on the good things that were before them. Then Zeus's daughter Helen bethought her of another matter. She drugged the wine with an herb that banishes all care, sorrow, and ill humor. Whoever drinks wine thus drugged cannot shed a single tear all the rest of the day, not even though his father and mother, both of them, drop down dead, or he sees a brother or a son hewn in pieces before his very eyes. This drug, of such sovereign power and virtue, had been given to Helen by Polydamna, wife of Thon, a woman of Egypt, where there grow all sorts of herbs, some good to put into the mixing bowl and others poisonous. Moreover, everyone in the whole country is a skilled physician, for they are of the race of Paeon. When Helen had put this drug in the bowl, and had told the servants to serve the wine round, she said, "Menelaus, son of Atreus, and you, my good friends, sons of honorable men, which is as Zeus wills, for he is the giver of both good and evil, and can do what he chooses. Feast here as you will, and listen while I tell you a tale in season. I cannot indeed name every single one of the exploits of Odysseus, but I can say what he did when he was before Troy, and you Achaeans were in all sorts of different difficulties. He covered himself with wounds and bruises, dressed himself all in rags, and entered the enemy's city looking like a menial or a beggar, and quite different from what he did when he was among his own people. In this disguise he entered the city of Troy, and no one said anything to him. I alone recognized him and began to question him, but he was too cunning for me. When, however, I had washed and anointed him, and given him clothes, and after I had sworn a solemn oath not to betray him to the Trojans till he had got safely back to his own camp and to the ships, he told me all that the Achaeans meant to do. He killed many Trojans and got much information before he reached the Argive camp, for which all things the Trojan women made lamentation. But for my own part I was glad, for my heart was beginning to yearn after my home, and I was unhappy about the wrong that Aphrodite had done me in taking me over there, away from my country, my little girl, and my lawful wedded husband, who was indeed by no means deficient either in person or understanding.
Then Menelaus said, "All that you have been saying, my dear wife, is true. I have traveled much, and have had much to do with heroes, but I have never seen another man as Odysseus. What endurance, too, and what courage he displayed within the wooden horse, wherein all the bravest of the Argives were lying in wait to bring death and destruction upon the Trojans. At that moment you came up to us. Some god who wished well to the Trojans must have set you onto it, and you had Deiphobus with you. 3 times did you go all around our hiding place and pat it. You called our chiefs each by his own name, and mimicked all our wives, Diomed, Odysseus, and I, from our seats inside, heard what a noise you made. Diomed and I could not make up our minds whether to spring out then and there, or to answer you from inside. But Odysseus held us all in check, and we sat quite still, except Anticlus, who was beginning to answer you, when Odysseus clapped his 2 brawny hands over his mouth, and kept them there. It was this that saved us all, for he muzzled Anticlus till Athena took you away again."
"How sad," exclaimed Telemachus, "that all this was of no avail to save him, nor yet his own iron courage. But now, sir, be pleased to send us all to bed, that we may lie down and enjoy the blessed boon of sleep." On this Helen told the maidservants to set beds in the room that was in the gatehouse, and to make them with good red rugs, and spread coverlets on the top of them with wooden cloaks. On this, Helen told the maidservants to set beds in the room that was in the gatehouse, and to make them with good red rugs, and spread coverlets on the top of them with woolen cloaks for the guests to wear. So the maids went out, carrying a torch, and made the beds, to which a manservant presently conducted the strangers. Thus, then, did Telemachus and Pisistratus sleep there in the forecourt, while the son of Atreus lay in an inner room with lovely Helen by his side. When the child of morning, rosy-fingered Dawn, appeared, Menelaus rose and dressed himself. He bound his sandals onto his comely feet, girded his sword about his shoulders, and left his room looking like an immortal god. Then, taking a seat near Telemachus, he said, "And what, Telemachus, has led you to make this long sea voyage to Sparta? Are you on public or private business? Tell me all about it." "I have come, sir," replied Telemachus, "to see if you can tell me anything about my father. I'm being eaten out of house and home, my fair estate is being wasted, and my house is full of miscreants who keep killing great numbers of my sheep and oxen, on the pretense of paying their addresses to my mother. Therefore, I am suppliant at your knees, if haply you may tell me about my father's melancholy end, whether you saw it with your own eyes, or heard it from some other traveller. For he was a man born to trouble. Do not soften things out of any pity for myself, but tell me in all plainness exactly what you saw. If my brave father Odysseus ever did you loyal service either by word or deed, when you Achaeans were harassed by the Trojans, bear it in mind now as in my favor, and tell me truly all." Menelaus, on hearing this, was very much shocked. "So," he exclaimed, "these cowards would usurp a brave man's bed. A hind might as well lay her newborn young in the lair of a lion, and then go off to feed in the forest, or in some grassy dell. The lion, when he comes back to his lair, will make short work with the pair of them, and so will Odysseus with these suitors. By Father Zeus, Athena, and Apollo, if Odysseus is still the man that he was when he wrestled with Philomelides in Lesbos, and threw them so heavily that all the Achaeans cheered him, if he is still such and were to come near these suitors, they would have a short shrift and a sorry wedding. As regards your questions, however, I will not prevaricate or deceive you, but will tell you without concealment all that the old man of the sea told me. I was trying to come on here, but the gods detained me in Egypt, for my sacrifices had not given them full satisfaction, and the gods are very strict about having their dues. Now, off in Egypt, about as far as a ship can sail in a day, with a good stiff breeze behind her, there is an island called Pharos. It has a good harbor from which vessels can get out into the open sea when they have taken in water. And here the gods becalmed me 20 days without so much as a breath of fair wind to help me forward. We should have run clean out of provisions, and my men would have starved, if a goddess had not taken pity upon me, and saved me in the person of Eidothea, daughter to Proteus, the old man of the sea, for she had taken a great fancy to me. She came to me one day when I was by myself, as I often was, for the men used to go to her with their barbed hooks all over the island in the hope of catching a fish or two to save them from the pangs of hunger. "Stranger," said she, "it seems to me that you like starving in this way. At any rate, it does not greatly trouble you, for you stick here day after day, without even trying to get away, though your men are dying by inches." "Let me tell you," said I, "whichever of the goddesses you may happen to be, that I am not staying here of my own accord, but must have offended the gods that live in heaven. Tell me, therefore, for the gods know everything, which of the immortals it is that is hindering me in this way, and tell me also how I may sail to the sea so as to reach my home." "Stranger," replied she, "I will make it all quite clear to you. There is an old immortal who lives under the sea hereabouts, and whose name is Proteus. He is an Egyptian, and people say he is my father. He is Poseidon's head man, and knows every inch of ground all over the bottom of the sea. If you can snare him, and hold him tight, he will tell you about your voyage, what courses you are to take, and how you are to sail the sea so as to reach your home. He will also tell you, if you so will, all that has been going on at your house, both good and bad, while you have been away on your long and dangerous journey.
Can you show me, said I, some stratagem of means of which I may catch this old god without his suspecting it and finding me out? For a god is not easily caught, not by a mortal man.
Stranger, said she, I will make it all quite clear to you. About the time when the sun shall have returned mid-heaven, the old man of the sea comes up from under the waves, heralded by the west wind that furs the water over his head. As soon as he has come up, he lies down, and goes to sleep in a great sea cave, where the seals, Halcyon's chickens as they call them, come up also from the grey sea, and go to sleep in shoals all round him. And a very strong and fish-like smell do they bring with them. Early tomorrow morning I will take you to this place, and will lay you in ambush. Pick out, therefore, the 3 best men you have in your fleet, and I will tell you all the tricks that the old man will play you. First, he will look over all his seals and count them. Then, when he has seen them and tallied them on his 5 fingers, he will go to sleep among them, as a shepherd among his sheep. The moment you see that he is asleep, seize him, put forth all your strength, and hold him fast, for he will do his very utmost to get away from you. He will turn himself into every kind of creature that goes upon the earth, and will become both fire and water. But you must hold him fast, and grip him tighter and tighter, till he begins to talk to you, and comes back to what he was when you saw him go to sleep. Then you may slacken your hold and let him go, and you can ask him which of the gods it is that is angry with you, and what you must do to reach your home over the seas.
Having so said, she dived under the waves, whereon I turned back to the place where my ships were ranged upon the shore, and my heart was clouded with care as I went along. When I reached my ship, we got supper ready, for night was falling, and camped down upon the beach. When the child of morning, rosy-fingered Dawn, appeared, I took the 3 men on whose prowess of all kinds I could most rely, and went along by the seaside, praying heartily to heaven. Meanwhile, the goddess fetched me up 4 seal skins from the bottom of the sea, all of them just skinned, for she meant playing a trick upon her father. Then she dug 4 pits for us to lie in, and sat down to wait till we should come up. And when we were close to her, she made us lie down in the pits, one after the other, and threw a seal skin over each of us. Our ambuscade would have been intolerable, for the stench of the fishy seals was most distressing. Who would go to bed with a sea monster if he could help it? But here, too, the goddess helped us, and thought of something that gave us great relief, for she put some ambrosia under each man's nostrils, which was so fragrant that it killed the smell of the seals. We waited the whole morning and made the best of it, watching the seals come up in hundreds and bask upon the seashore, till at noon the old man of the sea came up too, and when he had found his fat seals, he went over them and counted them. We were among the first he counted, and he never suspected any guile, but laid himself down to sleep as soon as he had done counting. Then we rushed upon him with a shout and seized him, on which he began at once with his old tricks and changed himself first into a lion with a great mane. Then all of a sudden he became a dragon, a leopard, a wild boar. The next moment he was running water, and then again directly he was a tree. But we stuck to him and never lost hold, till at last the cunning old creature became distressed and said, "Which of the gods was it, son of Atreus, that hatched this plot with you for snaring me and seizing me against my will? What do you want?" "You know that yourself, old man," I answered. "You will gain nothing by trying to put me off. It is because I have been kept so long in this island, and see no sign of my being able to get away. I'm losing all heart. Tell me, then, for you gods know everything, which of the immortals it is that is hindering me, and then tell me, also, how I may sail the sea so as to reach my home. Then," he said, "if you would finish your voyage and get home quickly, you must offer sacrifices to Zeus and to the rest of the gods before embarking. For it is decreed that you shall not get back to your friends and to your own house till you have returned to the heaven-fed stream of Egypt and offered holy sacrifices to the immortal gods that reign in heaven. When you have done this, they will let you finish your voyage." I was broken-hearted when I heard that I must go back all that long and terrible voyage to Egypt. Nevertheless, I answered, "I will do all, old man, that you have laid upon me. But now tell me, and tell me true, whether all the Achaeans upon whom Nestor and I left behind us when we set sail from Troy have got home safely, or whether any of them have come to a bad end, either on board his own ship or among his friends when the days of his fighting were done." "Son of Atreus," he answered, "why ask me? You had better not know what I can tell you, for your eyes will surely fill when you have heard my story. Many of those about whom you ask are dead and gone, but many still remain, and only 2 of the chief men among the Achaeans perished during their return home. As for what happened on the field of battle, you were there yourself. A 3rd Achaean leader is still at sea, alive, but hindered from returning. Ajax was wrecked, for Poseidon drove him onto the great rocks of Gyrae. Nevertheless, he let him get safe out of the water, and in spite of all Athena's hatred, he would have escaped death if he had not ruined himself by boasting. He said the gods could not drown him, even though they had tried to do so. And when Poseidon heard this large talk, he seized his trident in his 2 brawny hands and split the rock of Gyrae in 2 pieces. The base remained where it was, but the part on which Ajax was sitting fell headlong into the sea and carried Ajax with it. So he drank salt water and was drowned. Your brother and his ships escaped, for Hera protected him. But when he was just about to reach the high promontory of Malea, he was caught by a heavy gale, which carried him out to sea again sorely against his will, and drove him to the foreland where Thyestes used to dwell, and where Aegisthus was then living. By and by, however, it seemed as though he was to return safely after all, for the gods backed the wind into its old quarter, and they reached home, whereon Agamemnon kissed his native soil and shed tears of joy at finding himself again in his own country. Now there was a watchman whom Aegisthus always kept on watch, and to whom he had promised 2 talents of gold. This man had been looking out for a whole year to make sure that Agamemnon did not give him the slip and prepare war. When, therefore, this man saw Agamemnon go by, he went and told Aegisthus, who at once began to lay a plot for him. He picked 20 of his bravest warriors and placed them in ambuscade on one side of the cloister, while on the opposite side he prepared a banquet. Then he sent his chariots and horsemen to Agamemnon and invited him to the feast. But he meant foul play. He got him there, all unsuspicious of the doom that was awaiting him, and killed him when the banquet was over, as though he were butchering an ox in the shambles. Not one of Agamemnon's followers was left alive, nor yet one of Aegisthus, but they were all killed there in the cloisters. Thus spoke Proteus, and I was broken-hearted as I heard him. I sat down upon the sands and wept,
I felt as though I could no longer bear to live, nor look upon the light of the sun. Presently, when I had had my fill of weeping and writhing upon the ground, the old man of the sea said, "Son of Atreus, do not waste any more time in crying so bitterly. It can do no manner of good. Find your way home as fast as ever you can, for Aegisthus may still be alive, and even though Orestes has been beforehand with you in killing him, you may yet come in for his funeral." On this I took comfort in spite of my sorrow, and said, "I know then about these two. Tell me, therefore, about the third man of whom you spoke. Is he still alive but at sea, and unable to get home? Or is he dead? Tell me, no matter how it may grieve me." "The third man," he answered, "is Odysseus, who dwells in Ithaca. I can see him in an island, sorrowing bitterly, in the house of the nymph Calypso, who is keeping him prisoner. And he cannot reach his home, for he has no ships or sailors to take him over the sea. As for your own end, Menelaus, you shall not die in Argos, but the gods will take you to the Elysian plain, which is at the ends of the world. There, fair-haired Rhadamanthus reigns, and men lead an easier life than anywhere else in the world. For in Elysium there falls not rain, nor hail, nor snow, but Oceanus breathes ever with a west wind that sings softly from the sea, and gives fresh life to all men. This will happen to you because you have married Helen, and are Zeus's son-in-law." As he spoke, he dived under the waves, whereon I turned back to the ships with my companions, and my heart was clouded with care as I went along. When we reached the ships, we got supper ready, for night was falling, and camped down upon the beach. When the child of morning, rosy-fingered Dawn, appeared, we drew our ships into the water, and put our masts and sails within them. Then we went on board ourselves, took our seats on the benches, and smote the grey sea with our oars. I again stationed my ships in the heaven-fed stream of Egypt, and offered sacrifices that were full and sufficient. When I had thus appeased heaven's anger, I raised a barrow to the memory of Agamemnon, that his name might live forever. After which I had a quick passage home, for the gods sent me a fair wind. And now for yourself. Stay here some 10 or 12 days longer, and I will then speed you on your way. I will make you a noble present of a chariot and 3 horses. I will also give you a beautiful chalice, that so long as you live you may think of me whenever you make a drink offering to the immortal gods." "Son of Atreus," replied Telemachus, "do not press me to stay longer. I should be contented to remain with you for another 12 months. I find your conversation so delightful that I should never once wish myself at home with my parents. But my crew whom I have left at Pylos are already impatient, and you are detaining me from them. As for any present you may be disposed to make me, I'd rather that should be a piece of plate. I will take no horses back with me to Ithaca, but will leave them to adorn your own stables, for you have much flat ground in your kingdom, where lotus thrives, and also meadowsweet, and wheat, and barley, and oats of the white and spreading ears, whereas in Ithaca we have neither open fields nor race courses, and the country is more fit for goats than horses, and I like it the better for that. None of our islands have much level ground suitable for horses, and Ithaca least of all." Menelaus smiled, and took Telemachus' hand within his own. "What you say," said he, "shows that you come of good family. I both can and will make this exchange for you, by giving you the finest and most precious piece of plate in all my house. It is a mixing bowl by Hephaestus' own hand, of pure silver, except the rim, which is inlaid with gold. Phaedimus, king of the Sidonians, gave it to me in the course of a visit which I paid him when I returned thither on my homeward journey. I will make you a present of it." Thus did they converse, while guests kept coming to the king's house. They brought sheep and wine, while their wives had put up bread for them to take with them. So they were busy cooking their dinners in the courts. Meanwhile, in Ithaca, the suitors were throwing discs or aiming with spears at a mark on the leveled ground in front of Odysseus' house, and were behaving with all their old insolence. Antinous and Eurymachus, who were their ringleaders, and much the foremost among them all, were sitting together, when Noman, son of Phronius, came up, and said to Antinous, "Have we any idea, Antinous, on what day Telemachus returns from Pylos? He has a ship of mine, and I want it to cross over to Elis. I have 12 brood mares there, with yearling mulefuls by the side not yet broken in, and I want to bring one of them over here and break him." They were astounded when they heard this, for they had made sure that Telemachus had not gone to the city of Neleus. They thought he was only away somewhere on the farms, and was with the sheep, or with the swineherd. So Antinous said, "When did he go? Tell me truly, and what young men did he take with him? Were they free men, or his own bondsmen? For he might manage that too. Tell me also, did you let him have the ship of your own free will because he asked you? Or did he take it without your leave?" "I lent it him," answered Noman. "What else could I do when a man of his position said he was in a difficulty, and asked me to oblige him? I could not possibly refuse. As for those who went with him, they were the best young men we have, and I saw Mentor go on board as captain, or some god who was exactly like him. I cannot understand it, for I saw Mentor here myself today. I cannot understand it, for I saw Mentor here myself yesterday morning, yet he was then setting out for Pylos." Noman then went back to his father's house, but Antinous and Eurymachus were very angry. They told the others to leave off playing, and to come and sit down among themselves. When they came, Antinous, son of Eupeithes, spoke in anger. His heart was black with rage, and his eyes flashed fire as he said, "Good heavens! This voyage of Telemachus is a very serious matter. We had made sure that it would come to nothing, but the young fellow has got away in spite of us, and with a picked crew too. He will be giving us trouble presently. May Zeus take him before he is full grown. Find me a ship, therefore, with a crew of 20 men, and I will lie in wait for him in the straits between Ithaca and Same. He will then rue the day when he set out to try to get news of his father." Thus did he speak, and the others applauded his saying. They then all of them went inside the buildings. It was not long before Penelope came to know what the suitors were plotting, for a manservant, Medon, overheard them from outside the outer court as they were laying their schemes within, and went to tell his mistress. As he crossed the threshold of her room, Penelope said, "Medon, what have the suitors sent you here for? Is it to tell the maids to leave the master's business and cook dinner for them? I wish they may neither woo nor dine henceforward, neither here nor anywhere else. But let this be the very last time, for the waste you all make of my son's estate. Did not your fathers tell you when you were children how good Odysseus had been to them, never doing anything high-handed, nor speaking harshly to anybody? Kings may say things sometimes, and they may take a fancy to one man and dislike another, but Odysseus never did an unjust thing to anybody, which shows what bad hearts you have, that there's no such thing as gratitude left in this world." Then Medon said, "I wish, madam, that this were all, but they are plotting something much more dreadful now. May heaven frustrate their design. They are going to try to murder Telemachus as he is coming home from Pylos and Sparta, where he has been to get news of his father." Then Penelope's heart sank within her, and for a long time she was speechless, her eyes filled with tears, and she could find no utterance. At last, however, she said, "Why did my son leave me? What business had he to go sailing off in ships to make long voyages over the ocean like sea-horses? Does he want to die without leaving anyone behind him to keep up his name?"
"I do not know," answered Medon, "whether some god sent him out onto it, or whether he went on his own impulse to see if he could find out if his father was dead or alive and on his way home."
Then he went downstairs again, leaving Penelope in an agony of grief. There were plenty of seats in the house, but she had no heart for sitting on any one of them. She could only fling herself on the floor of her own room and cry, whereon all the maids in the house, both old and young, gathered round her and began to cry too, till at last, in a transport of sorrow, she exclaimed, "My dears, Heaven has been pleased to try me with more affliction than any other woman of my age and country. First I lost my brave and lion-hearted husband, who had every good quality under heaven, and whose name was great over all Hellas and Middle Argos. And now my darling son is at the mercy of the winds and waves without having heard one word about his leaving home. You hussies, there was not one of you would so much as think of giving me a call out of my bed, though you all of you very well knew when he was starting. If I had known he meant taking this voyage, I would have had give it up, no matter how much he was bent upon it, or leave me a corpse behind him, one or other." If I had known he meant taking this voyage, he would have had to give it up, no matter how much he was bent upon it, or leave me a corpse behind him, one or other. Now, however, go some of you, and call old Dolius, who was given me by my father upon my marriage, and who is my gardener. Bid him go at once, and tell everything to Laertes, who may be able to hit on some plan for enlisting public sympathy with our side, or against those who are trying to exterminate his own race and that of Odysseus." Then the dear old nurse, Euryclea, said, "You may kill me, madam, or let me live on in your house, whichever you please, but I will tell you the real truth. I knew all about it. I gave him everything he wanted in the way of bread and wine, but he made me take my solemn oath that I would not tell you anything for some 10 or 12 days, unless you asked to happen to hear of his having gone, for he did not want to spoil your beauty by crying. And now, madam, wash your face, change your dress, and go upstairs with your maids to offer prayers to Athena, daughter of aegis-bearing Zeus, for she can save him, even though he be in the jaws of death. Do not trouble Laertes. He has enough trouble already. Besides, I cannot think that the gods hate the race of the son of Acraeus so much, and there will be a son left to come up after him, and inherit both the house and the fair fields that lie far all round it." With these words she made her mistress leave off crying, and dried the tears from her eyes. Penelope washed her face, changed her dress, and went upstairs with her maids. She then put some bruised barley into a basket, and began praying to Athena. "Hear me," she cried, "daughter of aegis-bearing Zeus, unweariable. If ever Odysseus, while he was here, burned you fat thigh bones of sheep or heifer, bear it in mind now, as in my favour, and save my darling son from the villainy of the suitors." She cried aloud as she spoke, and the goddess heard her prayer. Meanwhile the suitors were clamorous throughout the covered cloister, and one of them said, "The queen is preparing for her marriage with one or the other of us. Little does she dream that her son has now been doomed to die." This is what they said, but they did not know what was going to happen. Then Antinous said, "Comrades, let there be no loud talking, lest some of it get carried inside. Let us be up and do that all in silence, about which we are all of a mind." He then chose 20 men, and they went down to their ship into the seaside. They drew the vessel into the water, and got her mast and sails inside her. They bound the oars to the thole-pins with twisted thongs of leather, all in due course, and spread the white sails aloft, while their fine servants brought them their armor. Then they made the ship fast a little way out, came on shore again, got their suppers, and waited until night should fall. But Penelope lay in her own room upstairs, unable to eat or drink, and wondering whether her brave son would escape, or be overpowered by the wicked suitors. Like a lioness caught in the toils of huntsmen hemming her in on every side, she thought and thought till she sank into a slumber, and lay on her bed bereft of thought and motion. Then Athena bethought her of another matter, and made a vision in the likeness of Penelope's sister, Ephthymené, daughter of Icarius, who had married Eumelus and lived in Pheræ. She told the vision to go to the house of Odysseus and to make Penelope leave off crying. So it came into her room by the hole through which the thong went for pulling the door to, and hovered over her head, saying, "You are asleep, Penelope. The gods who live at ease will not suffer you to weep and be so sad. Your son has done them no wrong, so he will yet come back to you." Penelope, who was sleeping sweetly at the gates of dreamland, answered, "Sister, why have you come here? You do not come very often, but I suppose that is because you live such a long way off. Am I, then, to leave off crying and refrain from all the sad thoughts that torture me? I, who have lost my brave and lion-hearted husband, who had every good quality under heaven, and whose name was great over all Hellas and Middle Argos, and now my darling son has gone off on board of a ship, a foolish fellow who has never been used to roughing it, or to going about among gatherings of men. I am even more anxious about him than about my husband. I am all in a tremble when I think of him, lest something should happen to him, either from the people among whom he has gone, or by sea. For he has many enemies who are plotting against him, and are bent on killing him before he can return home." Then the vision said, "Take heart, and be not so much dismayed. There is one gone with him, whom many a man would be glad enough to have stand by his side. I mean Athena. It is she who has compassion upon you, and who has sent me to bear you this message." "Then," said Penelope, "if you are a god, or have been sent here by a divine commission, tell me also about that other unhappy one. Is he still alive? Or is he already dead and in the house of Hades?" And the vision said, "I shall not tell you for certain whether he is alive or dead, and there is no use in idle conversation." Then it vanished the thong-hole of the door, and was dissipated into thin air. But Penelope rose from her sleep refreshed and comforted, so vivid had been her dream. Meantime the suitors went on board, and sailed their ways over the sea, intent on murdering Telemachus. Now there is a rocky isle called Asteris, of no great size, in mid-channel between Ithaca and Same, and there is a harbour on either side of it where a ship can lie. Here, then, the Achaeans placed themselves in ambush. Book 5. And now, as dawn rose from her couch beside Tithonus, harbinger of light, alike to mortals and immortals, the gods met in council, and with them Zeus, the lord of thunder, who is their king. Thereon Athena began to tell them of the many sufferings of Odysseus, for she pitied him away there in the house of the nymph Calypso. "Father Zeus," said she, "and all you other gods who live in everlasting bliss, I hope there may never be such a thing as a kind and well-disposed ruler any more, nor one who will govern equitably. I hope they will all be henceforth cruel and unjust, for there is not one of his subjects but has forgotten Odysseus, who ruled them as though he were their father. There he is, lying in great pain in an island where dwells the nymph Calypso, who will not let him go, for he cannot get back to his own country. For he can find neither ships nor sailors to take him over the sea. Furthermore, Wicked people are now trying to murder his only son Telemachus, who's coming home from Pylos and Sparta, where he has been to see if he can get news of his father."
"What, my dear, are you talking about?" replied her father. "Did you not send him there yourself, because you thought it would help Odysseus to get home and punish the suitors? Besides, you are perfectly able to protect Telemachus, and to see him safely home again, while the suitors have to come scurrying back without having killed him."
When he had thus spoken, he said to his son Hermes,
"Hermes, you are our messenger. Go therefore
When he had thus spoken, he said to his son Hermes,
Hermes, you are our messenger. Go therefore, and tell Calypso we have decreed that poor Odysseus is to return home. He is to be convoyed neither by gods nor men, but after a perilous voyage of 20 days upon a raft, he is to reach fertile Sycharia, the island of the Phaeacians, who are near of kin to the gods, and will honor him as though he were one of ourselves. They will send him in a ship to his own country, and will give him more bronze and gold and raiment than he would have brought back from Troy, if he had all his prize money and had got home without disaster. This is how we have settled that he shall return to his country and his friends."
Thus he spoke, and Hermes, gentle and guardian, slave of Thus he spoke, and Hermes, guide and guardian, slayer of Argus, did as he was told. Forthwith he bound on his glittering golden sandals with which he could fly like the wind over land and sea. He took the wand with which he seals men's eyes and sleeps. Thus he spoke, and Hermes, guide and guardian, slayer of Argus, did as he was told. Forthwith he bound on his glittering golden sandals, with which he could fly like the wind over land and sea. He took the wand, with which he seals men's eyes in sleep, or wakes them just as he pleases, and flew holding it in his hand over Pieria. Then he swooped down through the firmament, till he reached the level of the sea, whose waves he skimmed like a cormorant, that flies fishing every hole and corner of the ocean, and drenching its thick plumage in the spray. He flew and flew over many a weary wave, and when at last he got to the island which was his journey's end, he left the sea and went on by land till he came to the cave where the nymph Calypso lived. He found her at home. There was a large fire burning on the hearth, and one could smell from far the fragrant reek of burning cedar and sandalwood. As for herself, she was busy at her loom, shooting her golden shuttle through the warp and singing beautifully. Round her cave there was a thick wood of alder, poplar, and sweet-smelling cypress trees, wherein all kinds of great birds had built their nests, owls, hawks, and chattering sea-crows that occupy their business in the waters. A vine loaded with grapes was trained and grew luxuriantly about the mouth of the cave. There were also 4 running rills of water in channels cut pretty close together, and turned hither and thither, so as to irrigate the beds of violets and luscious herbage over which they flowed. Even a god could not help being charmed with such a lovely spot, so Hermes stood still and looked at it. But when he had admired it sufficiently, he went inside the cave. Calypso knew him at once, for the gods all know each other, no matter how far they live from one another. But Odysseus was not within. He is on the seashore as usual, looking out upon the barren ocean with tears in his eyes, groaning and breaking his heart for sorrow. Calypso gave Hermes a seat and said, "Why have you come to see me, Hermes? Honored and ever welcome. For you do not visit me often. Say what you want, I will do it for you at once if I can, and if it can be done at all. But come inside and let me set refreshment before you." As she spoke, she drew a table loaded with ambrosia beside him and mixed in some red nectar. So Hermes ate and drank till he had had enough, and then said, "We are speaking god and goddess to one another, and you ask me why I have come here, and I will tell you truly as you would have me do. Zeus sent me. It was no doing of mine. Who could possibly want to come all this way over the sea, where there are no cities full of people to offer me sacrifices or choice hecatombs? Nevertheless, I had to come, for none of us other gods can call..." Nevertheless, I had to come, for none of us other gods can cross Zeus, or transgress his orders. He says that you have here the most ill-starred of those who fought 9 years before the city of King Priam, and sailed home in the 10th year after having sacked it. On their way home, they sinned against Athena, who raised both wind and waves against them, so that all his brave companions perished, and he alone was carried hither by wind and tide. Zeus says that you are to let this man go at once, for it is decreed that he shall not perish here, far from his own people, but shall return to his house and country and see his friends again. Calypso trembled with rage when she heard this. "You gods," she exclaimed, "ought to be ashamed of yourselves. You are always jealous, and hate seeing a goddess take fancy to a mortal man, and live with him in open matrimony. So when rosy-fingered Dawn made love to Orion, you precious gods were all of you furious till Artemis went and killed him in Ortygia. So again when Demeter fell in love with Iasion, and yielded to him in a thrice-plowed fallow field, Zeus came to hear of it before so very long and killed Iasion with thunderbolts, and now you are angry with me too because I have a man here. I found the poor creature sitting all alone astride of a keel, for Zeus had struck his ship with lightning and sunk it in mid-ocean, so that all his crew were drowned, while he himself was driven by wind and waves on to my island. I got fond of him and cherished him, and had set my heart on making him immortal, so that he shall never grow old all his days. Still, I cannot cross Zeus, or bring his counsels to nothing. Therefore, if he insists upon it, let the man go beyond the seas again. But I cannot send him anywhere myself, for I have neither ships nor men who can take him. Nevertheless, I will readily give him such advice, in all good faith, as will be likely to bring him safely to his own country." "Then send him away," said Hermes, "or Zeus will be angry with you and punish you." On this he took his leave, and Calypso went out to look for Odysseus, for she had heard Zeus's message. She found him sitting upon the beach with his eyes ever filled with tears, and dying of sheer homesickness, for he had got tired of Calypso, and though he is forced to sleep with her in the cave by night, it was she, not he, that would have it so. As for the daytime, he spent it on the rocks and on the seashore, weeping, crying aloud for his despair, and always looking out upon the sea. Calypso then went up close to him, and said, "My poor fellow, you shall not stay here grieving and fretting your life out any longer. I am going to send you away of my own free will. So go, cut some beams of wood, and make yourself a large raft with an upper deck, that it may carry you safely over the sea. I will put bread, wine, and water on board to save you from starving. I'll also give you clothes, and will send you a fair wind to take you home if the gods in heaven will so it." "I will also give you clothes, and will send you a fair wind to take you home, if the gods in heaven so will it, for they know more about these things, and can settle them better than I can." Odysseus shuddered as he heard her. "Now, goddess," he answered, "there is something behind all this. You cannot be really meaning to help me home when you bid me do such a dreadful thing as to put to sea on a raft. Not even a well-found ship with a fair wind could venture on such a distant voyage. Nothing that you can say or do shall make me go on board a raft, unless you first solemnly swear that you mean me no mischief." Calypso smiled at this, and caressed him with her hand. "You know a great deal," said she. but you are quite wrong here. May heaven above and earth below be my witnesses, with the waters of the river Styx, and this is the most solemn oath which a blessed God can take, that I mean you no sort of harm, and am only advising you to do exactly what I should do myself in your place. I am dealing with you quite straightforwardly. My heart is not made of iron, and I am very sorry for you." When she had thus spoken, she led the way rapidly before him, and Odysseus followed in her steps. So the pair, goddess and man, went on and on, till they came to Calypso's cave, where Odysseus took the seat that Hermes had just left. Alright, just gotta find my place here. I have about 5 pages or so left in this chapter. And then it will be about 10 o'clock, my time zone. So I will probably stop there. So, yeah. Once I finish this chapter, I think I was right here. When she had thus spoken, she led the way rapidly before him, and Odysseus followed in her steps. So the pair, goddess and man, went on and on till they came to Calypso's cave, where Odysseus took the seat that Hermes had just left. Calypso sat meat and drink before him, of the food that mortals eat. But her maids brought ambrosia and nectar for herself, and they laid their hands on the good things that were before them. When they had satisfied themselves with meat and drink, Calypso spoke, saying, "Odysseus, noble son of Laertes, so you would start home to your own land at once. Good luck go with you. But if you could only know how much suffering is in store for you before you get back to your own country, you would stay where you are, keep your house along with me, and let me make you immortal, no matter how anxious you may be to see this wife of yours, of whom you are thinking all the time, day after day. Yet I flatter myself that I am no whit less tall or well-looking than she is, for it is not to be expected that a mortal woman should compare in beauty with an immortal." "Goddess," replied Odysseus, "do not be angry with me about this. I am quite aware that my wife Penelope is nothing like so tall or so beautiful as yourself. She is only a woman, whereas you are an immortal. Nevertheless, I want to get home and can think of nothing else. If some god wrecks me when I am on the sea, I shall bear it and make the best of it. I've had infinite trouble both by land and sea already. So let this go with the rest." Presently the sun set, and it became dark, whereon the pair retired into the inner part of the cave and went to bed. When the child of morning, rosy-fingered Dawn, appeared, Odysseus put on his shirt and cloak, while the goddess wore a dress of a light gossamer fabric, very fine and graceful, with a beautiful golden girdle about her waist and a veil to cover her head. She at once set to herself to think how she could speed Odysseus on his way. So she gave him a great bronze axe that suited his hands. It was sharpened on both sides, and had a beautiful olive wood handle fitted firmly onto it. She also gave him a sharp adze, and then led the way to the far end of the island, where the largest trees grew, alder, poplar, and pine, that reached the sky, very dry and well-seasoned, so as to sail light for him in the water. Then when she had shown him where the best trees grew, Calypso went home, leaving him to cut them, which he soon finished doing. He cut down 20 trees in all, and adzed them smooth, squaring them by rule in good workmanlike fashion. Meanwhile Calypso came back with some augurs, so he bored holes with them, and fitted the timbers together with bolts and rivets. He made the raft as broad as a skilled shipwright makes the beam of a large vessel, and he fixed a deck on top of the ribs, and ran a gunwale all around it. He also made a mast with a yard arm, and a rudder to steer with. He fenced the raft all round with wicker hurdles as a protection against the waves, and then he threw on a quantity of wood. By and by Calypso brought him some linen to make the sails, and he made these too excellently, making them fast with braces and sheets. Last of all, with the help of levers, he drew the raft down into the water. In 4 days he had completed the whole work, and on the 5th Calypso sent him from the island after washing him and giving him some clean clothes. She gave him a goat skin full of black wine, and another larger one of water. And she also gave him a wallet full of provisions, and supplied him with much good meat. Moreover, she made the wind fair and warm for him, and gladly did Odysseus spread his sail before it, while he sat and guided the raft skillfully by means of the rudder. He never closed his eyes, but kept them fixed on the Pleiades, on late-setting Butes, and the Bear, which men also call the Wain, and which turns round and round where it is, facing Orion, and alone never dipping into the stream of Oceanus, for Calypso had told him to keep this to his left. Days 7 and 10 did he sail over the sea, and on the 18th the dim outlines of the mountains on the nearest part of the Phaeacian coast appeared, rising like a shield on the horizon. But King Poseidon, who was returning from the Ethiopians, caught sight of Odysseus a long way off, from the mountains of the Solymi. He could see him sailing upon the sea, and it made him very angry. So he wagged his head and muttered to himself, saying, "Good heavens! So the gods have been changing their minds about Odysseus while I was away in Ethiopia. And now he is close to the land of the Phaeacians, where it is decreed that he shall escape from the calamities that have befallen him. Still, he shall have plenty of hardship yet before he has done with it." Thereon he gathered his clouds together, grasped his trident, stirred it round in the sea, and roused the rage of everything that blows, till earth, sea, and sky were hidden in cloud, and night sprang forth out of the heavens. Winds from east, south, north, and west fell upon him all at the same time, and a tremendous sea got up, so that Odysseus' heart began to fail him. "Alas," he said to himself in his dismay, "whatever will become of me? I am afraid Calypso was right when she said I should have trouble by sea before I got back home. It is all coming true. How black is Zeus making heaven with his clouds, and what a sea the winds are raising from every quarter at once! I am now safe to perish. Blessed and thrice blessed were those Danaans who fell before Troy in the cause of the sons of Atreus. Would that I had been killed on the day when the Trojans were pressing me so sorely about the dead body of Achilles, for then I should have had due burial, and the Achaeans would have honored my name. But now it seems that I shall come to a most pitiable end." As he spoke, a sea broke over him with such terrific fury that the raft reeled again, and he was carried overboard a long way off. He let go of the helm, and the force of the hurricane was so great that it broke the mast halfway up, and both sail and yard went over into the sea. For a long time Odysseus was under the water, and it was all he could do to rise to the surface again. For the clothes Calypso had given him weighed him down, but at last he got his head above water and spat out the bitter brine that was running down his face in streams. In spite of all this, however, he did not lose sight of his raft, but swam as fast as he could towards it, got hold of it, and climbed on board again so as to escape drowning. The sea took the raft and tossed it about as autumn winds whirl thistledown round and round upon a road. It was as though the south, north, east, and west winds were all playing battledore and shuttlecock with it at once. When he was in this plight, Ino, daughter of Cadmus, also called Leucothea, saw him. She had formerly been a mere mortal, but had since raised to the rank of a marine goddess. Seeing in what great distress Odysseus now was, she had compassion upon him, and rising like a seagull from the waves, took her seat upon the raft. "My poor good man," said she, "why is Poseidon so furiously angry with you? He is giving you a great deal of trouble, and for all his bluster he will not kill you. You seem like a sensible person. Do then as I bid you. Strip, leave your raft to deal before the wind, and swim to the Phaeacian coast, where better luck awaits you. And here, take my veil and put it round your chest. It is enchanted, and you can come to no harm as long as you wear it. As soon as you touch land, take it off, throw it back as far as you can into the sea, and then go away again." With these words she took off her veil and gave it to him. Then she dived down again like a seagull and vanished beneath the dark blue waters. But Odysseus did not know what to think. "Alas," he said to himself in dismay, "this is only some one or other of the gods who is luring me to ruin by advising me to quit my raft. At any rate, I will not do so at present, for the land where she said I should be quit of all my trouble seems to be a good way off. I know what I will do. I am sure it will be best. No matter what happens, I will stick to the raft as long as the timbers hold together. But when the sea breaks her up, I will swim for it. I do not see how I can do any better than this." While he was thus in two minds, Poseidon sent a terrible great wave that seemed to rear itself above his head till it broke right over the raft, which then went to pieces as though it were a heap of dry chaff tossed about by a whirlwind. Odysseus got astride of one plank and rode upon it as if he were on horseback. He then took off the clothes Calypso had given him, bound Ino's veil over his arms, and plunged into the sea, meaning to swim on shore. King Poseidon watched him as he did so, and wagged his head, muttering to himself and saying, "There now, swim up and down as best you can, till you fall in with well-to-do people. I do not think you will be able to say that I have let you off too lightly." On this he lashed his horses and drove to Aegae with his palace. On this he lashed his horses and drove to Aegae, where his palace is. But Athena resolved to help Odysseus, so she bound the ways of all the winds except one, and made them lie quite still. But she roused a good stiff breeze from the north that should lay the waters till Odysseus reached the land of the Phaeacians, where he would be safe. Thereon he floated about for 2 nights and 2 days on the water, with a heavy swell on the sea, and death staring him in the face. But when the 3rd day broke, the wind fell, and there was a dead calm without so much as a breath of air stirring. As he rose on the swell, he looked eagerly ahead, and could see land quite near. Then, as children rejoice when their dear father begins to get better after having for a long time borne sore affliction, sent him by some angry spirit, but the gods deliver him from evil, so was Odysseus thankful when he again saw land and trees, and swam on with all his strength that he might once more set foot upon dry ground. When, however, he got within earshot, he began to hear the surf thundering up against the rocks, for the swell still broke against them with a terrific roar. Everything was enveloped in spray. There were no harbors where ship might ride, or shelter of any kind, but only headlands, low-lying rocks and mountain-tops. Odysseus' heart now began to fail him, and he said despairingly to himself,
Alas, Zeus has let me see land after swimming so far that I had given up all hope. But I can find no landing place, for the coast is rocky and surf-beaten. The rocks are smooth and rise sheer from the sea, with deep water close under them, so that I cannot climb out for want of foothold. I'm afraid some great wave will lift me off my legs and dash me against the rocks as I leave the water, which would give me a sorry landing. If, on the other hand, I swim further in search of some shelving beach or harbor, a hurricane may carry me out to sea again, sorely against my will. Or heaven may send some great monster of the deep to attack me, for Amphitrite breeds many such, and I know that Poseidon is very angry with me. While he was thus in two minds, a wave caught him, and took him with such force against the rocks that he would have been smashed and torn to pieces if Athena had not shown him what to do. He caught hold of the rock with both hands and clung to it, groaning with pain till the wave retired. So he was saved that time, but presently the wave came on again and carried him back with it far into the sea, tearing his hands as the suckers of a polypus are torn when someone plucks it from its bed, and the stones come up along with it. Even so did the rocks tear the skin from his strong hands, and then the wave drew him deep down under the water. Here, poor Odysseus would have certainly perished, even in spite of his own destiny, if Athena had not helped him to keep his wits about him. He swam seaward again, beyond reach of the surf that was beating against the land, and at the same time he kept looking towards the shore to see if he could find some haven, or a spit that should take the waves aslant. By and by, as he swam on, he came to the mouth of a river, and here he thought would be the best place, for there were no rocks, and it afforded shelter from the wind. He felt that there was a current, so he prayed inwardly, and said, "Hear me, O king, whoever you may be, and save me from the anger of the sea-god Poseidon, for I approach you prayerfully. Anyone who has lost his way has at all times a claim even upon the gods. Wherefore, in my stress, I draw near to your stream, and cling to the knees of your riverbed. Anyone who has lost his way has at all times a claim even upon the gods. Wherefore, in my distress, I draw near to your stream, and cling to the knees of your riverhood. Have mercy upon me, O king, for I declare myself your suppliant." Then the god stayed his stream and stilled the waves, making all calm before him, and bringing him safely into the mouth of the river. Here at last Odysseus's knees and strong hands failed him, for the sea had completely broken him. His body was all swollen, and his mouth and nostrils ran down like a river with sea water, so that he could neither breathe nor speak, and lay swooning from sheer exhaustion. Presently, when he had got his breath and came to himself again, he took off the scarf that Ino had given him, and threw it back into the salt stream of the river, whereon Ino received it into her hands from the wave that it bore towards her. Then he left the river, laid himself down among the rushes, and kissed the bounteous earth. "Alas!" he cried himself in his dismay, "whatever will become of me, and how is it all to end? If I stay here upon the riverbed through the long watches of the night, I am so exhausted that the bitter cold and damp may make an end of me. For towards sunrise there will be a keen wind blowing off from the river. If, on the other hand, I climb the hillside, find shelter in the woods, and sleep in some thicket, I may escape the cold and have a good night's rest, but some savage beast may take advantage of me and devour me." In the end, he deemed it best to take to the woods, and he found one upon some high ground not far from the water. There he crept beneath 2 shoots of olive that grew from a single stalk, the one an ungrafted sucker, while the other had been grafted. No wind, however squally, could break through the cover they afforded, nor could the sun's rays pierce them, nor the rain get through them, so closely did they grow into one another. Odysseus crept under these, and began to make himself a bed to lie on, for there was a great litter of dead leaves lying about, enough to make a covering for 2 or 3 men even in hard winter weather. He was glad enough to see this,
So he laid himself down and heaped the leaves all round him. Then, as one who lives alone in the country, far from any neighbor, hides a brand as fire seed in the ashes to save himself from having to get a light elsewhere, even so did Odysseus cover himself up with leaves, and Athena shed a sweet sleep upon his eyes, closed his eyelids, and made him lose all memory of his sorrows. That is the end of that chapter, and it is past 10 o'clock, so that is where I am going to end tonight. I don't know when I'll stream again. I don't even know if I'll be streaming this book again. This is just test recordings for what will eventually be the audiobook, because this, what you hear from this live stream is eventually going to turn into an edited audio with pictures going with it, rather than you seeing my face. So it's I'm stumbling over my words right now. This is just the behind the scenes, I guess you could call it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Like and subscribe if you want.